What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to continue our 2023 college football predictions for the 2023 college football season. Up next is the Wisconsin Badgers, a team coming off a pretty up-and-down season in 2022. Went 7-6 overall last year, and it was a pretty up-and-down year for Wisconsin. They did fire their head coach, but now they have a new era coming in. Looking at this team this year, my thoughts on this team: I think they're going to be pretty good on both sides of the football. A lot of production coming back for this team. They do have a transfer quarterback coming in over from SMU, so how good will he be at that quarterback position? We'll find out, as the season comes away. But looking at the schedule for Wisconsin this year, do they have a potential chance to maybe make the Big Ten championship this upcoming season? We don't really know for sure because the Big Ten West is obviously a division that's wide open every single year, and that's why it's so tough to predict all these Big Ten West teams. Look at the schedule this year. They do play Buffalo on September the 2nd, Washington State on September the 9th, and then Georgia Southern here on September the 16th. So not a tough non-conference schedule for Wisconsin, but that Washington State game, that's a Power 5 team on the road out of the Pac-12. Last year they played them at home. They lost to them by 3. It's a rematch from last year's game. And then you look at who they play outside of the Big Ten West. They'll play Rutgers, Iowa, or actually not Iowa. They also play Ohio State and then Indiana on the road. So they don't really have a tough draw there outside of the Big Ten West. At least it's not Michigan or, at least it's not Michigan and Penn State. You don't get those two teams, but you do have to play Ohio State. The good news is you get the Buckeyes at home. That's the good news, but let's go right to the schedule now and give you a game-by-game here official prediction for this Wisconsin team. So let's start things off here with Buffalo here at home on September the 2nd. I think this is a game that Wisconsin should take care of business pretty easily in this game. I really don't see them having any reason to lose this game either. So I got Wisconsin starting out 1-0 pretty easily. And then there's that game on the road at Washington State. Big game here in the non-conference between the Big Ten and the Pac-12. Looking back to last year's matchup, I just mentioned it. It was a short-scoring defensive game here between these two teams last year. Washington State, though, won by 3 points in this one. Could Wisconsin get some revenge here in this game? Could they really go on the road and defeat Washington State and get revenge on them? That's going to be probably the case this year for this Wisconsin team. Washington State, though, is a tough place to play, and I think people are still kind of sleeping on this Washington State team, so I really am kind of anxious to see how this team plays this year. This is definitely a 50-50 ball game for me. Wisconsin and Washington State are obviously two teams that have had tough times in their conferences now in the last couple years, but I think Washington State's going to be a pretty good team this year. This is a 50-50 game for me. Like I said, I think it's one of those games that can just go either way. And with that being said, I think Wisconsin will lose this one here on the road at Washington State. Usually when it comes to those 50-50 games, I usually go with the home field advantage, and I like Washington State here in a close one over the Badgers of Wisconsin. So that puts Wisconsin's record at 1-1. But they get a win over Georgia Southern the next week, and that improves their record to 2-1. Then they'll open up Big Ten play here on the road at Purdue. I think this game is now scheduled for a Friday on September the 22nd. So it is September the 23rd here on my schedule, but I think it's now unofficial on a Friday night. This will be a pretty good game here between these two teams. You got Purdue that's kind of, owned the West now in the last couple years. Not owned the West, but, the division is pretty much wide open every year. But I think Purdue is definitely a team that's really, not going to be all that bad this year. I think they're still a good team, but this is a new era for this Purdue team. We just don't know how good they're going to be, but this is not going to be an easy game for Wisconsin. They do have a first-year head coach, and it's going to be hard to tell how Wisconsin will do on the road. But this will be their second true road game test. I think it's a really tough game to call, though, for me because it is on the road at Purdue. It's obviously a tough place to play. With that being said, 50-50 game, home field advantage does favor the Boilermakers in this one. Returning productions are kind of similar for both of these teams. So I think Wisconsin will lose a pretty close one to the Boilermakers of Purdue. I know Wisconsin fans won't agree with that prediction, but it's my official prediction. I have to predict this one as a loss here for Wisconsin because of the home field advantage and obviously, a tough place to play. Rutgers coming up next on October the 7th. They actually get a bye week before playing this game. I don't think that's really a good spot for a bye week. So they get their bye week rather early in the season in the last month of September, so that's really interesting there. But I don't think the Rutgers are going to be all that good this year. I think Wisconsin will take care of business against the Rutgers here, and they get a pretty easy win here on October the 7th. Then they'll play Iowa the next week here on October the 14th. This is a big game here in the Big Ten West. I mean, you look at Iowa, a couple years ago they won the Big Ten championship, or actually not won the Big Ten championship. They went to the Big Ten championship, I should say. But last year, Iowa's kind of really struggled on the offensive side of the football. I think it's definitely a defensive battle here between these two teams. I could very well see this game going either way. It's one of those 50-50 games that just comes down to the wire for me. Wisconsin, though, is at home in this game, and that means they'll have home field advantage in this one. And with that being said, I think Wisconsin defeats Iowa here in a close matchup here, and I got Wisconsin now improving to 4-2. Then it's Illinois on the road next year on October the 21st. This is kind of similar to the Washington State-Purdue games. This is a really tough place to play. This won't be an easy game here for Wisconsin. I think Illinois is going to be a pretty good team this year. I think I can have them as a top 25 team. I didn't put them in my, top 25s in the offseason, but I think I'm kind of doubting this team, and I think they're going to be better than I think they're going to be. So, yeah, Wisconsin, this won't be an easy game. This will be a tough road game here for Wisconsin. It's definitely one of those 50-50 games because Illinois was pretty good last year. With that being said, I think Illinois wins a close one here against the Badgers. It's another one of those, upset alert type games, but maybe Wisconsin is not ranked in the top 25 by this point, but I think Illinois pulls off a stunner here with Wisconsin, and I got Wisconsin now falling to 4-3. Then it's Ohio State the next week here on October the 28th. I think Wisconsin's going to be competing in this game. I could very well see them pulling off an upset here. I mean, the Buckeyes are going to have some options at quarterback. They're going to have a lot of question marks, but the wide receivers that they have on that side of the football, that's definitely going to be tough for Wisconsin to stop. I mean, Ohio State, though, I think they're going to be better by this time on the offensive side, and whoever the quarterback is going to be, I think they'll be better on that position as well. Ohio State, though, I think is a team that, is going to really be good on the offensive side of the football. But I think Wisconsin has a pretty good chance to really shock Ohio State. But I don't think that's going to be enough this year. I think it's going to take some time before they can really get back to that top of the Big Ten West. And with that being said, I think Wisconsin will lose a pretty close one here at home to Ohio State. And I got them now falling to 4-4. Then they get to the month of November now. They'll play on the road at Indiana. This is a trap game for Wisconsin. I mean, Indiana's got a lot of production coming back, but the question is, how good will this Indiana team be? They haven't been now in the last couple years. It's really hard to tell of how good this team will be after a really downfall season and now in a couple years now. So this will be a pretty tricky road game here for Wisconsin, but I think Wisconsin will get a win here on the road, at least at Indiana. It won't be a blowout or anything like that, but I think Wisconsin will come away with a surviving win on the road at Indiana. Then it's Northwestern on November the 11th. I really don't see Northwestern being all that good this year. I think, with the season they had from last year, it's just hard to tell how good this team will be in the Big Ten this year and obviously in the Big Ten West. I think they're down there at that bottom tier of the Big Ten West too, so I like Wisconsin in this game big over Northwestern. Then it's Nebraska next here on November 18th. Nebraska is a team that's getting a lot of, hype, even though they're going to have a first-year head coach. I think Matt Rhule is definitely capable, leading Nebraska probably to a bowl game in his first year, but maybe Nebraska's kind of the same. Maybe they lose a close game each and every single game, but, this is kind of one of those games that Wisconsin will have problems in. I think Nebraska will compete in this one, but end of the day, though, Wisconsin does have home field advantage in this one. With that being said, I'm going to go with the Badgers here to knock off Nebraska in a close game, and I got Wisconsin improving to 7-4. Then it's Minnesota to end things out here on the road on November 25th. Minnesota lost a lot of production from last year, but this will be a tough road game here for Wisconsin. And usually when it comes to these road games, it's obviously tough to predict in the Big Ten West because the Big Ten West is obviously wide open every single year, and this will be kind of similar to the Illinois game, Purdue and Washington State games. It's just one of those 50-50 games that I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think Minnesota being at home gives them a lot of confidence, and it's just definitely one of those games that's going to go either way. But with that being said, 50-50 game, home field advantage does favor the Golden Gophers. With that being said, I'm going to go with the upset here. I like Minnesota in this game in a close one. So I know Wisconsin fans won't be really, excited about that one. I know they won't really agree with that prediction, but it's just a tough game to call for me. So Wisconsin, I got them finishing with a record of 7-5 for 2023. I don't think Wisconsin fans are going to agree on that record. 8-4 is really possible for this Wisconsin team. I really well can see this team going 9-3, but I think it's impossible to go 10-2 with the kind of schedule they do have. I think worst case scenario for this Wisconsin team would be 5-7 or maybe 6-6. But if they do go to 6-6, it wouldn't really shock me. I think if they did go 5-7, that would kind of be a little bit of a shocker. But it's a first-year head coach. It's a first year with Luke Fickell and obviously the new coaching staff. We just don't know how good this Wisconsin team will be. So 7-5 is my prediction for Wisconsin in 2023. Let me guys know what you think about this Wisconsin team. What do you think their record is in 2023? And stay tuned here for more sports content videos on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.